Thank you so much, Elisa, for all that you do and for teaching and sharing with us, even in this short time this evening, how creative expression can help our youth and adults move from overwhelmed to hope, and how it helps our youth just feel understood. So thank you very much, and I'm really happy that your parents were here to share with us. So now we have another presentation by Ms. Miles Ruby, who is our parent practitioner with the Family Resource Center, who's going to be discussing parenting for the future, evidence-based support that builds youth resilience and reduces risk. Please help me welcome Ms. Ruby Miles.
Hello, how's everyone doing? It's been a long day, I know, and I'm so flattered and honored to be on this stage with all these wonderful presenters. And my name is Miles Ruby in that order. I know it seems backwards, and a lot of people subconsciously correct it. I know it's an enigma, but that's me. So I'm going to talk about parenting today. And at the Family Resource Center, where I have been graciously working for almost 14 years, we believe that parents are the agent of change, that the most powerful tool for a child's future isn't just found in the classroom or the doctor's office, it's found in the home. All right, oh, I need my clicker. Where did it go? There it is. All right, so what I do, I'm a parenting coach. I'm a certified parenting coach. I'm a certified ADHD professional. I'm very passionate about it. I'm a mother of 3 adult daughters. I'm a graduate of teenagers. I can say I survived and they survived as well. And I've been on this journey for 32 years. I'm also a grandparent. And I'm also a trained facilitator for D2L, Stewards for Children, for our SNAP, Train the Trainer, which is a cognitive behavioral therapy program for children. I'm also trained in Triple P. It's a positive parenting program that's internationally accredited. And I'm trained in both, more than one. I'm trained in Standard, Teen, Transitions, which is for co-parents, as well as Enhanced Triple P to help with coping skills, with partner support, and that kind of thing. And I also am trained in collaborative and proactive solutions, which really helps you develop a partner, a problem-solving partner with your child. It's a great resource to work with children and the parent. So, what am I going to be talking about today? I have a little outline here. I'm going to be talking about building resilience and buffering exposure to ACEs through positive parenting practices. I'm going to be talking about the science of resilience and what parenting programs are evidence to provide, how structured parenting programs improve parent and child well-being as well as behavior, and also some practical parenting tips to help your child build resilience. So, what we know is that parenting is one of the most important jobs one will ever have. And what we know also is that we can't protect our children from all the suffering and pain that life brings. And so before we look for the future, we have to understand the past. And we have to understand what ACEs are. And so we have to look at how the ACEs affect our children's development. And they're not just bad days. There's different types of ACEs. And they're also linked to impaired cognitive development, chronic illness, and mental health issues. Chronic stress from ACEs negatively affects children's well-being. It literally can change the trajectory of their life, right? So I'm going to have a video to explain what ACEs are, because I thought it did it so beautifully. I think I need you to push play.
ACEs are stressful or traumatic experiences that occur in childhood, like violence, abuse, and growing up in a family with substance use or mental health problems. When a caring adult or supportive environment doesn't soften those adverse experiences, or when they are ongoing or overwhelming, they can lead to a prolonged activation of our stress response called toxic stress. Think of toxic stress like this. Our bodies were designed to escape predators quickly. Imagine you're walking through the woods and you see a bear. Your brain signals your body to release stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart begins to pound and your body prepares you to either fight or run from the bear. And that's useful if you're in the forest and there's a bear. The problem is when children face threats to their physical and emotional safety, and this system is activated over and over and over again. What was meant to protect you begins to do the opposite and becomes damaging to your health, creating long-lasting wear on your body and brain. Children are especially vulnerable to the effects of ACEs and toxic stress because their brains and bodies are still developing. The toxic stress from ACEs and other adversities such as poverty, racism, discrimination, and natural disasters can disrupt the normal functioning of vital bodily systems. Simply put, toxic stress can result in long-term mental and physical health conditions. Not only that, but the effects of ACEs can be passed from parent to child for generations through the biological changes and behaviors associated with ACEs and toxic stress. A person with 4 or more ACEs is twice as likely to suffer from heart disease, cancer, and stroke, 4 times as likely to develop depression, and 12 times as likely to attempt suicide. The good news is that safe, stable relationships and environments and other interventions such as physical and mental health support can reduce the risk of ACEs leading to toxic stress and stress-related health conditions. To learn more, visit www.osg.ca.gov.
All right, I'm so glad you're able to see that. And hear it. Yes. So basically, when we learn about ACEs, these are things that happen to children that's outside their control until they're 18, like neglect. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be divorce, it could be there's someone in the family that has mental health issues, that has substance abuse issues. And this is all outside the control of the child. But not all hope is lost, right? The science also tells us something else, something hopeful. That's why we're here, right? Adversity is not destiny, okay? So when we talk about resilience, the science of resilience, protective factors help to buffer those ACEs, the chronic stress. It helps them to understand that they're not alone, that there's support out there. And there's a lot of different protective factors. They're kind of like shock absorbers for the child in a world that's chaotic. That's, a lot of it is beyond their control. And one of the most important protective factors, other than a growth mindset, where you're willing to try new things and not be afraid to not be perfect, and social-emotional abilities like empathy, emotional regulation, those kind of things, is that nurturing parent-child relationship. That is one of the most powerful protective factors that we can offer our children. And we have to understand, why resilience? Why do some children thrive, why others struggle? A lot of it has to do with the protective factors, right? Because resilience isn't about never struggling. It's really about having the tools to recover, right? And the growth mindset allows them to see challenges as obstacles that they can overcome, right? Not permanent conditions. And again, when our children have a warm, responsive, caring support at home, they are more likely to develop strong coping skills, empathy, and emotional regulation. And this factor also reduces the intergenerational cycles of domestic abuse by modeling nonviolent communication and care. So when they develop these social-emotional abilities as well, which also includes self-awareness, understanding when they're upset, knowing what those triggers are, and have empathy and emotional literacy, and maintain positive relationships, this really helps protect them from the negative effects of ACEs. So, when we look at those buffering factors, those protective factors, again, they're like shock absorbers for the child's life. And when we talk about buffering, we're talking about a child's ability to remain safe even when the outside world is chaotic. As you can see by the formula here, we have protective factors, such as parental support, and then we have, underneath that, adversity and risk factors. So as you can see by the formula, resilience is a balance. When adversity is high, we must increase that parental support and protective factors to keep that equation positive. And parents are the single greatest buffer against toxic stress. So, the human impact, what does that look like? So, I want you to listen to some words from a past graduate from one of our programs, and this is word by word from them. They said, after graduating from one of our programs, they said, the house went from a battlefield to a place where we finally understand each other. Now that is the hope that evidence-based parenting provides. So proven toolkits like Triple P, like SNAP, these are the golden standard. They are evidence-based, they are research-based, and they work globally. And so it doesn't, as we know in Cayman, we have so many different cultures, people from different jurisdictions, and it works everywhere from Australia to India to Canada to the States to here. And so decades of global research have proven that. And we actually see an 85% success rate in improving child behavior and a 92% improvement in the quality of the parent-child relationship. Now, who doesn't want to have a better relationship with their child, right? That is basically the foundation of effective parenting, is the parent-child relationship. If you don't have that, it's really hard to be effective. All right, so what happens when you go through these programs is you learn how to avoid or even stop the escalation trap, that coercive cycle of you do something, the child does something, and it just goes round and round and round. And so you learn how to interrupt that. And you also help empower the children to self-regulate. As we know, their brains are growing and developing, they're under construction. And we have to connect before we correct. We have to connect with them on an emotional level and help calm them down. We need to share our calm, not join their chaos. And then once we do that, then we can problem solve. But so often as parents, we skip that step, that empathy step of understanding first and saying, hey, what's up? No judgment, no shame, just, hey, you seem really upset, what's going on? And understanding what is going on with them. Because as adults, we tend to make a lot of assumptions. We have a lot of adult theories, and we jump to a lot of conclusions. But if we stop and sit with no judgment, you'll learn a lot from your child. All right? So, resilient. How do we raise resilient teens? We want teens to build that inner strength to navigate the storm of life, right? And there's a quote I share a lot of times with my parents that I'm coaching, and it says, we cannot direct the wind, but we can adjust our sails. There's so much in life we don't control and can't control, but we can control ourselves, our response. And that's where the power is. And also when children learn, that's where their power is. They build self-esteem, self-worth, self-confidence, and that agency that I can get through this, even when it's hard. Because as parents, we can't take away all the pain and suffering. Life is hard. We can't bubble wrap them. We need to prepare them, give them the tools they need to succeed and to get themselves back up when they fall down, because they will. And we need to be there to support them. But first of all, we have to know, what is resilience? Again, it's not just bouncing back, but the ability to adapt positively to life's ups and downs, right? It's not a trait that kids are born with. It's like a tool that has to be sharpened. And it's built through those internal capacities and external support from the parent, from the loving community. It could be a counselor. It could be a teacher. It could be a coach, right? But what happens is, as a parent, we have to change our belief from rescuing to supporting, right? We don't want to be, that helicopter parent and swoop in, rescue them, and swoop out. So we want to really move away from that. Easier said than done, because no one likes to see their child suffer or be in pain, and I know that firsthand. So I'm going to go over 5 tips of building resilience, and we're going to look at how to prioritize quality time and connection. We've heard a lot about connection today, not only through neuroscience, but through art and creativity, how important that is. We want to also listen to understand, not to solve. We also want to help encourage exploration and growth. Again, creativity, so much can be expressed through art. Model healthy habits and coping. As parents, we are our children's first teacher. They look to us for everything. They watch what we do, how we handle problems, how we handle stress, how we handle, people in general. And lastly, how to stay hopeful about their future. I think a lot of teens today have lost a lot of hope about their future and the world and the direction it's going in with AI and, the countries at war and everything. It's a little scary out there. And I think we could all agree to that. So, first tip, prioritizing quality time and connection. So, routine matters. The world is chaotic enough. And when there's routine and structure, there's stability, and there's also predictability. And when kids know what to expect, that reduces their anxiety. So establish some routines. It could be a family dinner. It could be taking the dog for a walk, after dinner. It could be, whatever it looks like in your family. The car ride to and from school. We have a great opportunity there to connect, right? And so we want to have those ear-to-ear conversations, not so much eye to eye. It's less confrontational when we're not looking at each other, but when we're sitting beside each other. And it just makes them feel more open than having that direct eye contact, right? I remember playing many a video game with my daughters, and when they were teenagers, and I despise video games. But I knew it was important to them, so it was important to me. And it was a way we could connect. We could talk about the game and the levels and the challenges and the funny things, and they loved the fact that they could always beat me, because I was terrible. So anyway, but sometimes we had some of the best conversations or discussions during those games. And so the goal is to create a sense of belonging and safety. You become that safe space, right? You are that sanctuary. And again, it takes time to develop that connection. Tip 2, listen to understand, not to solve. I think every parent wants to, help their child and not go through the pain that you went through as a teenager, right? It's like, I don't want them to make the same mistakes. But there's a magic question we can ask our teen when they come home, slam the door and, go into their room and throw their book bag on the floor and just disappear. We can ask, are you looking for a solution or are you looking for comfort? Give them the ability to write themselves. It's kind of like a weeble wobble, right? They come in the door and that weeble wobble is falling down. And what we want to write them up. But no, we want to give them an opportunity to write themselves so they can learn that they have that innate ability to do so. So a lot of times they just want empathy. They want understanding. They just want to be heard. They want to hear that what they're going through is normal and to feel validated, right? So instead of rushing in to fix it, say, wow, that sounds really tough. I'm here for you if you want to talk. And 9 times out of 10, they'll say no, right? And that's okay. There's, I'll give you another little tidbit from Kai Graham, who's a wonderful parent coach. And I had one of my teenagers going through a difficult time, had her heart broken for the first time, teens are very emotional, as we know. That's where they are developmentally. But I was really worried about her. But I didn't want to interrogate her, But I couldn't not ask. She was just hiding in her room, barely come out for dinner, go back in, say 2 words. So there's the 3 questions. The first question is, what's your number? So on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? 0 being the worst, 10 being the best. So you kind of get a gauge of how they're feeling. Then the second word is, what's your feeling? It could be hopeless, nervous, worried, sad, whatever it is. Then the third question, I think, is one of the most important ones. Do you want to talk about it? Now, this is the hard part. 9 out of 10 times they're going to say no. And you have to honor that. Because that way, that gets them out of the room. They know when they come out, they're not going to be interrogated. They feel safe. And so you have that conversation with your child and say, I just need to know how you're doing. I don't want to interrogate you, but as a parent, I'm worried about you. So this will be our little thing that we can do. And we did it. And there were times when she would say, 2, hopeless, no. I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, well, if you change your mind, I'm here for you. And just leave that door open, okay? And not rush in and try to fix it. All right, tip number 3, encourage exploration and growth. Just like we heard from Miss Alyssa, art, creativity, whether it's dance, performing arts, visual arts, we really want to praise that messy process of learning, not just the final result. I think so often we focus on the grade and not the effort put into it, right? And we want to make sure that we don't put that kind of pressure on, okay, if you're going to try this, you're going to have to be the best at it, you're going to have to win, right? Let them learn to enjoy it first. That's why I think Denmark is winning all the gold medals. They say we teach our kids to enjoy the sport first. Then you get better. So let them explore interests without expectations. And this is really important. Remind them of the times they achieved something even when they thought it was impossible. And you can go back as far as, remember when you were a child and you never thought you'd be able to ride a bike without your training wheels? Well, look at you now, right? And so helping them see that, hey, I have overcome adversity. I have done something that I didn't think I could do. And that gives them that internal, agency to go, okay, I can give this a try. I can try something new and not be afraid to not be perfect, right? And as parents, we need to show that too, that we're not perfect and that everyone makes mistakes, okay? One thing I say a lot to my parents is the acronym FAIL. And it stands for First Attempt in Learning. So you never really fail. If you learn something, you've gained something, you've grown. And so it's not a failure. You might fall down 3 times, but then you keep getting back up. You might have a scraped knee or, hurt ego. But they kept trying and they didn't give up because they realized, perfection is not attainable. And that's okay. Tip number 4, model healthy habits and coping. Woo, easier said than done, right? As parents, we are that first teacher. And a lot of times we say, do as I say, not as I do, right? They're watching us every moment, everything that we do, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, verbalize your process. We all have bad days at work. We have challenges. Talk through how you solve an everyday problem. And we do this a lot of times at dinner. We'd have our highs and lows and talk about, and usually the parent would initiate it and talk about, what went well in the day, what didn't. And everyone has a chance to talk about it. And there's no judgment, there's no fixing, it's just venting. You can have empathy and say, wow, that sounded tough, or that sounded really exciting. But we want to help them learn how to process that. And that we do that by doing it. So you can model that, such as, what, I had such a tough day. I think I'm going to go for a walk to clear my head. You want to join me? And so then they learn this skill. Gosh, if I'm having a bad day at school, maybe I can go for a walk and feel better afterwards, right? So what that does is it builds their mental strength. It teaches them and shows them that asking for help is a sign of strength, not a weakness. That's so important. I think so many, now younger kids maybe, but not teenagers, think their parents are perfect. Once you become a teenager, you're like, wow, they're really flawed. So, but we want to show them that we are flawed, and that's okay. But I'm going to work on it. I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to grow. Even at my age, I can still learn something new. And that means they can too. And tip 5, stay hopeful about their future. Hope is such a catalyst. We all need hope today. And that optimism protects that internal environment when there are setbacks. We all experience setbacks. That's why it's important to have resilience. And so we can use phrases like, you know what, we can figure this out. Practice makes better, We're not going to sugarcoat it because we know that's not going to make them feel better. Say, I know this is tough. It's not easy. And life's not fair sometimes. And that's really a bummer, But we can keep going. We can keep practicing. And I'm here to support you if you need it. So remind them, too, that setbacks are temporary and they do not define them. Most millionaires have gone bankrupt at least once. A lot have. So they've learned, right? Through their failure, they learned. First attempt in learning. Well, I know not to do this, but I should do that. All right? So, some practical strategies for home that I want you to walk away with today. How do we turn hope into action? So I want you to look at this list. Positive catching. What is that? That's basically catching your child doing something well, giving positive attention to positive behavior. What the research shows is that whatever behaviors you give attention to will be the behaviors you'll see more of. So if you want those positive behaviors, give that attention. There needs to be more positive attention than correction. We do need to correct our children. They need to learn to set limitations and boundaries and how to behave appropriately within those boundaries. But we want to make sure that we catch them doing the good stuff. Not just because they should do it. Well, why should I praise them or say something if it's something they should do? We all like to be acknowledged. And kids want to be seen. They want to be heard. And so when they see, this is how I get my parents' attention, they don't need to, have the tantrum because they can get it in a more positive way. So no matter how small, you can go home and find that one thing that you can praise your child for. Thanks for picking up your book bag. It's nothing that small. Another thing is emotional reframing. Now, this isn't, letting your child off the hook. It's more about reducing your reactivity so that you will have less power struggles. You'll come at you'll be guiding and not, saying, I'm right and you're wrong. So often we look at behavior and we have a negative label like, oh, when they say, why? Why do I have to come home at this time when they're questioning their curfew? If we turn it upside down and look at it in a positive way, it's like, wow, they're curious. They're analytical. They're thinkers. We want critical thinkers. We want kids to ask, but why? Right? Why is it that I need to do this? Or why I don't need to do that? So we want to build that, and we can do that by reframing their behavior. Because usually if there's, when I teach about ADHD, curiosity, the opposite of that is distractibility, right? Distractibility is bad, but curiosity is good. So if you turn it on its head, you get something positive. So a lot of times if we can reframe that behavior and look for the positive, we'll be less reactive, have less power struggles, and be able to guide our child. Another one is the pause rule. This is so important. We're human, we get triggered, but we need to also take 2 deep breaths and pause before we respond so that we don't do or say something that we regret we can't take back. We can apologize and repair, but still, you're also modeling self-regulation. You're showing how to deal with difficult emotions in the moment and how to take care of yourself and self-regulate. And then we have quality time. I think we've heard a lot about that today. And I'd like to say, do something that the teen wants to do, not necessarily what you want to do. It needs to be teen-led or child-led. Because when you show interest in what they're interested in, you learn a lot about them. Why do you like this video game? What is appealing about it to you? So you get an inside look into your child, and you also get an understanding that you may not have had before, right? So what I'd like you to do is think about, what can you do today? How can you make a difference? A tiny shift, when applied consistently, is the building block of resilience. So, turning hope into action. I got a challenge for you before you go today. What's one small step you can take this week to support your teen's resilience? All right? So we've got a few minutes left. So building our youth's resilience in Cayman is a journey we all take together. And now I open the floor to any questions. Anyone have a question for me? It's so good. Thank you so much.